Hello everyone, my name is Ala, and today we will talk with Paul about his experience of volunteering within European Solidarity Corps. Maybe you can first introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, my name is Paul Morgensten, and I was a European Solidarity Corps volunteer between 2020 to 2021. And I did my volunteering in Vinnytsia, Ukraine, working for Pangeya Ultima, and I come from the Netherlands, which I had finished studying there in international relations, and then came to Ukraine to go on an adventure and see what interesting project stuff I would do while working for the organization. Chose Ukraine probably more on because it was a little bit different in some of the other volunteering opportunities. I also chose it based on the project. Pangeya Ultima had a very interesting project around journalism, as well as also around arts and creating a lot of interesting projects, mainly around photography, but also around stories, movies, and very kind of artsy more things, which I thought would be a real interesting experience after doing quite a lot of academia to do something more creative than just write essays, while still having kind of a cool research aspect to it as well, to improve writing and do a bit of journalism. Those were my main considerations when joining and going to Ukraine. I found out through friends of mine who had also done European Solidarity Corps in Georgia, and they said that they had a real fun time sitting there and drinking a lot of Georgian wine and doing a lot of interesting work, working in NGO. And I kind of heard that and thought, that also sounds really interesting and something that I might want to do while trying to figure out my life, I guess. And then from there, I just went to the website and I just looked through all the different opportunities and then kind of started emailing to the ones that seemed the most interesting, and then I just went from there. I think the biggest challenge was just adapting to a new country. Although I have traveled to many countries and lived in many different countries, it's always still very interesting when you go to a new country, especially when you don't quite know the language. And then being there like, I'm going to be here for almost a year, and then just figuring your way out. I think that's definitely one of the more challenging aspects to it. The only other real challenging thing that I think that we had was with the COVID lockdowns, with doing projects online, and being quite disappointed when just quite a lot of projects we had put a lot of time and effort into just kind of stopped. I think that's probably would be the two most challenging things that I personally had while living and working in Ukraine. I think there's lots of opportunities, definitely both ways. I think as a volunteer, you get the opportunity to live in another country, experience a new culture, work with in a more multicultural environment, which creates kind of its own problems, but also gives you a lot more ability around communication and learning how to communicate with others. For locals, I think it gives them the chance to meet foreigners, experience other cultures or languages or ideas that wouldn't necessarily come organically else. And I think the volunteering, it's because you're creating projects and a common interest, you sort of get to build something together with local people. And I think that's probably the most valuable thing, where both sides get to work and learn from each other. rather than just one side doing all the giving, if that makes sense. I think that happened quite a lot, but I think that happens everywhere where you go. I think everyone has the idea that their own town or place where they live is not the most exciting, and they want to go somewhere else. And then they're always surprised when someone else finds their own hometown exciting and surprising, and they want to find out everything what they've kind of just see on a daily basis. I think that really is what plays into it more. But yeah, you just get very good at learning to introduce yourself and say where you're from, because you just keep repeating that with every new person that you meet. That's just kind of the way that it is. And I think I probably learned quite a lot of valuable skills, just in everything, to be honest. But I think the key ones that I definitely learned was definitely project management, how to manage people, how to work with people, communication, and then also how to lead in research, as well as also dealing with creative kind of more projects or more creative people. And then I also got relatively okay at taking photos as well, so that was also a bonus. But I think definitely the learning how to work with others in a more project-based setting is probably the most valuable thing that I've learned, and in my current job now, really see how useful that experience was, and actually just working with lots of different people and just setting up things. Um, it really comes in handy than just someone who comes fresh out of university and only knows how to take exams to have that more practical, and just, yeah, speaking with people to get things done, and rather than just kind of doing everything out of textbook. So I think that's probably the biggest things that I definitely learned. I think the pros was that it was very flexible. There was not a lot of expectation, and you had a lot of room to just develop what you wanted to do. There was not a lot of you must do X, Y, Z by Friday. It was a lot more self-driven, and you had a lot more room to experiment and to fail, uh, to do things like that. But I think within that as well, the con of that was that because it was so free, some people would just not really go very full, and there's a very imbalance between who was putting a lot of energy into it to try and really build a good project, whereas who would do kind of the minimum and then go into the local bar and go chat with locals, which both is like fine. But you definitely see a lot more friction around those kind of two attitudes around volunteering. And because you're both volunteers, there's no pressure or salary that kind of motivates you to do better than the other. I think that would be the two big ones around the volunteering. I think for Ukraine, there's definitely a lot of pros in going around the country. It's a very beautiful country to visit. Traveling is very easy once you get the hang of how to book train tickets. Lots of really, really cool cities and things like that. But the con, it's just very far away, a lot of things. And it's also cold in the winter. I think we had like minus 16, 18, which for like a whole month I was not ready for that. I like snow, but not after not when it's minus 18 outside. That's cold. Yeah, that would be my two pros and cons for the country. No, I never had the idea that I went back to real life or anything like that. I just went to a different, yeah, path or opportunity, where I got to work in digital humanities. So I got to take a lot of the more artsy, creative things I had worked with, and then put it a bit more into my study, while also just being quite good at project management, which helped a lot there. But being a year out, I mean, I just look at it as I had a wonderful time. I got to see a really, really beautiful country, before the war escalated a year after that, and I'm just really grateful that I got the opportunity when I did. I think that's really what I look back onto it. Lots of great and fun memories. I just have a lot of positive things to say. I think definitely some of the trips to Stina, where we got to hang out in the summertime there, that was definitely very positive. My roommates were a very positive experience, living with two Italians who had their parents send them food, and then just eating Italian cheese for like a whole month, because otherwise it would go bad. Definitely a lot of the traveling. I definitely I love my time in the Carpathians and in Vinnytsia. I think that probably would be on my top place. If I can ever go back there again, I'd love to go back there again as well. Funny moments, jumping into the cold water. Was it on the holy day where everyone goes into the cold water and then freezing after that? That was probably a very funny moment. I'm sure I have many other ones.
Yeah.
Getting lost or or when we had Charlotte get into a marshrutka for the first time, and she just kind of got pushed into one on the side of the road, and then she tried to ask where will it drop me off, and it said they'll know, it's fine, and the look on her face of panic of not knowing what's gonna happen. And yeah, lots of fun things like that. Lots of good memories and funny memories.
Okay, thank you very much for your time, and
No problem. We had a good team.